Okay, so moving on back to the Squarespace dashboard. So you would have received an invitation, a contributor invitation from Squarespace, well, sent by ourselves, to access your 6 month trial website. So hopefully you will have done that, and when you log into the dashboard, you should see your website here. Now I've started creating a website here for demonstration purposes, but actually I'm just going to show you what creating a new website from scratch looks like in the dashboard. So here, I always go for a blank template. I mean, Squarespace does have many great templates, but I think for me, I prefer starting with a blank canvas. And also, you don't want to run into the danger that, where you have other brands in the same niche going for the same template, and therefore you end up with something not very original. Um, so yeah, I would always recommend going for a blank template. Blank template, um, a blank template is what we've provided you with your 6 month trial, because hopefully by the end of this course you will not need a template at all. Um, so yeah, Squarespace, they do kind of spoon feed people a lot more than they used to, and I suppose it's a good thing if you've never had any experience at all. But if you're, I don't know, I find sometimes it can throw you. Okay, so this is what your website should look like right now at this moment in time, unless you've started having a go at it. But we supplied it pretty much like this. So I'm just going to guide you through the steps that I would always do once I start a new website. First thing, name your site. So you do this by going into the page, clicking edit, going into the header area, clicking on this, clicking on the pen. It's all very intuitive. So I'm just going to call it, for the demo site, I've created a retreat company, but for this one, let's just say we're doing it for a restaurant. So I'll call it the Fig Tree. And for the purposes of SEO, I would always suggest putting a little hint about what and where the business is. If you have a location, it's always good to put it in the title, because that will help with SEO. You may have seen before in your browser tabs, websites will often have like a divider between sections in the title, like a pipe, they call it, or I tend to use an M dash, which is slightly longer than a hyphen. I did read somewhere once that M dashes are better for SEO than pipes, but honestly, I don't think it makes much of a difference. So put a little dash, and I am just plucking this out of contemporary Greek cuisine, and another dash, and let's say we're putting this restaurant in what city shall we do it? Let's say Chelsea. London. Okay, so we'll save that. Now, obviously, you don't want, and I would say, by the way, don't go overboard in terms of your SEO words. I mean, I would really keep it to under 5 words. And if your business is not location tied to a location, obviously don't put a location there. But now, so that is more of an SEO thing, because in reality, you're going to replace this visually, at least, with a logo. So you can add a logo here, upload a file from your computer. Hopefully you'll have that prepared. Now, moving on, I don't have a logo for the fig tree because I just made this restaurant up. And it doesn't exist yet, but okay, so the next thing I would do is, you will notice Squarespace automatically generate these very strange URLs. So that's called the inbuilt Squarespace URL. Now, a lot of people don't bother changing this, but it is something I always notice, and particularly if you are, I mean, when the website goes live, you will no doubt link it to an actual custom domain, but that Squarespace domain is always going to be in the back end of your website. So I will always go in and change that, especially if you're doing the website for a client. It's much more professional if you send them the preview link with their actual business.squarespace.com. So in order to do that, we go down into settings and we go into the domains and email domains, and we'll go into the built-in domain, and under site ID we change it, so I will call it the dash fig tree restaurant. Okay, so you just name it what it is, save. I've never really seen where those words are not available, but if you do run into that issue, then see if you can add a hyphen between the words or not add a hyphen. Okay, so that's the second thing I would do. The other thing, you want to set your visibility. So in order to do that, again, we'll go into settings and we will go into site availability, and before it goes live, well, you can't actually go live until you pay for a hosting plan, but in order to share preview links, you will go to password protected. I'm just going to put fig tree 1, 2, 3. Okay, so then that way, if you want to share that with anyone while it's being developed, you can just copy that and send them the link with the password. Okay, so they are the first things I would do on setting up a website. The other thing I would do, and again, people forget this, but you see you have this little black cube up here, or sort of grey. That's the Squarespace icon. And in order to make sure your website looks finished and professional, And a lot of people forget this, but you need to add a favicon. So that's up here again in settings under website, favicon. Now there's certain rules about what kind of file that should be, and you can see it down there. I usually do 144 by 144, and you have to save the image as a PNG. So I mean, normally it's a very, very tiny version of the logo, or you might just have, I mean, on what do I have for source projects? Yeah, I just have a tiny version of the logo in grey, or you might have the initials of the company, etc. So, okay, we will go back. So yeah, they're the first steps I would take in setting up a website, and I will I'll leave you here, and before we move on to the next bit,